my greatest hope is that an audience comes out of watching this movie and there's going to be a handful of you that think it's exclusively about adultery, another handful that think it's exclusively about a marriage that's not communicating properly, another one that think it's about repressed homosexuality, another one that think it's about internalized self-hatred under systems of racism or the patriarchy or any number of things, class, performance. I mean, these are all true. In all honesty, when I looked at her, I always saw a Black woman. And regardless of what other people saw, I just saw that in her. And I was always slightly mystified by it. And when I asked her, she would say, I don't know. It's possible. It's possible that we're Black. It's possible that we're Native American. I don't know. I don't know, and I doubt we'll ever know. And anyway, you know, we have to move on. I mean, she didn't say that. I don't mean that in a derogatory sense. You know, I say this with a great deal of compassion. She was doing what any dutiful daughter does. She respects the wishes of her father, and her father repeatedly said to her, this is something we do not talk about. And so she didn't talk about it. It takes a toll, you know, the legacy, the inheritance of a life lived in hiding, of not having that pride in your heritage, and instead being left with this swirling sort of negative space where you're forced to sort of pick and choose your performance of who you want to be because you don't have that, I think takes its toll. And I found that interesting and compelling, and I wanted to get to the bottom of it. Somebody handed me a book and said, this thing that you keep talking about, it's this. And I looked at this book and I went, passing? What does that even mean? I mean, why would anyone call a book passing? And there she is. Hello, Nella Larsen. And I sat down and I read it in one sitting, and it was like a piece of a jigsaw just landed. I was like, of course he was passing. Of course this explains the mystery, the evasion, my mother not knowing her grandfather's name. Of course, because you cut off a community and you live a different way. This was the beginning of a 13-year journey, not only to make the movie, but also to get to the bottom of a ton of stories around my grandfather and my family. And now I know them all. And I know now with certainty that he was born to two Black parents. He was racialized Black. He was socialized Black. He made a decision at a certain point of his life to both pass as Indigenous for a certain time and then pass for white when he married my Dutch grandmother. I think Nella Larsen asks you to work. She asks you to work for it. She asks you to apply whatever you're bringing, whatever of your own identity, your own concerns about the world you're bringing, because you can then fill in the space. And I wanted that spirit to be in the movie. I didn't want to do anything that was in any way didactic or honestly, really ever telling an audience what to think. But within that, you do also have to keep all the strands alive. Like you have to keep all the various different interpretations alive, because, you know, my greatest hope is that an audience comes out of watching this movie and there's going to be a handful of you that think it's exclusively about adultery, another handful that think it's exclusively about a marriage that's not communicating properly, another one that think it's about repressed homosexuality, another one that think it's about internalized self-hatred under systems of racism or the patriarchy or any number of things, class, performance. I mean, these are all true.
They're all right. Yeah,
you're all right.
Yeah.
All of those interpretations are right, but you don't get any of those interpretations if you sit too heavily on any one of them. You know, at first blush, it feels that I'm saying something very literal, like this is a black and white world, therefore this is a black and white film. But I'm actually sort of messing with you a little bit, because it's about your perception of that literalness, the way we categorize and call things like black and white, because black and white film is not black and white, it's gray. It's 1,000 shades of gray, just like people are neither black nor white. There is always degrees, and you can't reduce someone's definition into one category, because you end up spilling out the side. These faces can be mutable. They can change with lighting states. And it was imperative for me to cast 2 black women. On some level, this is about performance of race, performance of gender, performance of sexuality, performance of class. And you're only aware of that performance if you're looking at someone that you have a fixed idea of their racial identity. Then you're aware of the performance. If you're looking at someone who looks completely white, that you know that you receive to be white, you stop thinking about that. The danger goes away. But this way, you're forced into a black perspective. You know, I keep sort of using this example, but it's sort of the clearest way I can think of. If you're a family and someone leaves and crosses the color line, you as a member of that family, you don't look at that person and go, oh yes, okay, I accept the race that they're saying they are now. I accept that they're white. You only ever see them as black. And you don't understand how the rest of the world isn't seeing them that way. And you're scared for them because that's how you're feeling. And that's the perspective that I wanted the audience to sit in. But I could only do that in black and white, because in color, it would look like our world. So you would be constantly thinking about how this doesn't make any sense. But in this world, you can play with these things in a very sort of, you're constantly shifting the context, shifting your perception, shifting your way of how you think you see the world.
Let's end with your mother. What did your mother think of this film? What does it mean to her?
It's really huge. I don't really know. I don't even really know how to begin to sort of talk about this in these kind of settings. You know, I brought it on myself, but so I have to, but it's huge for her. You know, it's given her something that is really difficult to articulate. Well, it's not. I suppose the easiest way, it sounds sort of extreme, but she called me up not that long ago in tears, and she said, you've liberated me, and you've liberated my father, and what you've given us all, I'll never be able to be more grateful. Anyway, that's enough.
No, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us.